As readers, we all have this desire to read books, but sometimes since we find the words difficult, sometimes the books are boring, and that's why we are not able to read. But if you can get time and motivation to read books, I will tell you 5 books that will be easy to read, and according to me, these books are especially for students and beginners who want to start their reading journey, but somehow they are not able to. So let's start. So the first book on the list is Alchemist. This is my all-time favorite book. Students will love this book because this book talks about dreams and how to fulfill those dreams. And if you are a beginner, this book will grab your attention right away. The words of this book are easy to understand, and this book takes you on a journey from one continent to another. What I especially liked about this book was its characters. The main characters, the main lead is Santiago the shepherd, who likes reading books, and he lives in Andalusia, Spain. The character of the king who accidentally meets Santiago and tells him about his dream and the hidden treasure that he sees in the dream and asks him to fulfill that dream. And finally, the alchemist who guides him to find the treasure. This book will appeal to everyone, especially students and beginners, because of its gripping plot, interesting characters, and beautiful story. You will love to know what will happen next, and this book will keep you hooked. You can get this book from Amazon for about 250 rupees, and this book is not more than 177 pages long. And I think as a beginner and student, you should definitely read this book. It is a must read. So the second book on my list is Ashwatthama Redemption, The Rise of the Dandak. Now, it was such an interesting book that I read it in just 2 sessions. What I mean is I read it for a few hours every day for 2 days. Sometimes I have found that the reason why we don't read books as beginners is because we don't relate to that story. And that is why we just leave the book and we just don't go beyond 1 page or 2 page at the most. But this book, with its relatable story, will give you ample of reasons to read this book right away. And that is why this book is on my list. Now, why am I saying so that this book has a relatable story? It is because this book has reference of Mahabharata and Ramayana, and especially the principal character of this book, Ashwatthama, was part of Mahabharata, as you all know, main character of this book. And according to this book story, he is living a life of obscurity, a life where no one knows him, in the jungle on the outskirts of the kingdom called Surparaka. Now, what happens after that is so interesting that you will feel like you're watching a Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings. Now, that is something which is relatable, right? Now, apart from the kingdom of Surparaka, this book also talks about various other kingdoms and their kings, princesses, and also the Himalayan kingdom of Yetis. It also talks about the rise of the dangerous and powerful Asura called Dandak, as the title of the book suggests. I was fully immersed and engrossed in this book from the first page itself. And as a beginner, if you are looking to build a habit of book reading, I highly recommend that you read this book. You will find this book interesting and it will get you into that groove that you require as a reader, as a beginner, as a student. And you can also watch a separate video of this book that I made a few months back by clicking on the link on the top right hand corner of the screen, and you will get a full review of this book. Now, the third book on my list is The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, aged 13, 3/4. Now, not many of us have heard of this book, but let me tell you, this book was a bestseller. It was a big hit when it was first published. Now, this book is for students, teenagers, youngsters, 100%. Now, why I'm saying so is because this book is so easy to understand that someone with basic English abilities can understand and follow the story of this book. I would go on to say that those people, students, beginners who want to improve their English and find it difficult to read difficult books should give this book a try and read this. It will improve their English. Now, reading this book will feel like that you're talking to a 12 or 13-year-old boy. It is like as if you are sitting right next to him, watching him and watching his life right in front of your eyes. And if any young parent is watching this video right now, I highly recommend that you read this book to your children, to your young children, to get them into this habit of reading. Now, this book talks about the story of a 13-year-old boy called Adrian Mole who's living with his parents. And in this book, the writer has told the story in first person from the eyes of the teenager Adrian Mole. And this book is funny from the first page. Now, this book shares the day-to-day life incidents of Adrian Mole and how the kid looks at life when he sees his parents fighting, and his school life and the love of his life, Pandora, his grandmother, and day-to-day life incidents which have been told in a funny and light-hearted and very interesting way. You will love it. Now, what I liked about this book, and I think why this book became a bestseller, is because every word that the writer has written in this book genuinely feels like it is coming out of the mouth of a 13-year-old boy, which is brilliant and amazing. I highly recommend that any beginner, students or teenager or youngster should give this book a try and read it. And it is a must read. Well, the fourth book on my list is When the Blackbirds Fly. Again, I bought this book thinking that I'll know a little bit about Northeast India, which we really don't talk about, from a young writer. But when I read this book, what I got was a love story of another teenager who's living at the right place at a wrong time. Now, why I'm saying so? Well, you have to read this book to know. But reading this 120-page long book from Mizoram was fun and sad at the same time. Now, fun because this story is easy to understand and anyone in that age group will be able to relate to. And it was also fun because it is a story of any other kid who's living a life of fun and frolic. This story is of a 13-year-old boy whose name has not been revealed in the book, but he's having a great time with his two friends, Minnie and Zoala, and enjoying it until something happens. And sad because this book is set in a time in Mizoram when an independence movement is gathering pace in the state. A tragedy strikes and the life of the boy and his family changes forever. And according to me, as a beginner, if you are looking a book to read, you should definitely read this book for its easy language and vivid storytelling. And if you are someone who likes to explore different regions and wants to have a different experience, I think you should give this book a try because it talks about a part of India which is hardly explored. And if you read this book, you will know a little bit about Mizoram and its independence movement, and probably you will be interested in knowing about it. That's my take on it. And I think right now you can get this book for about 150, 170 rupees from Amazon easily. And you should order this book if you are thinking of reading such kind of books. So the last book on my list is The Last of the Mohicans. It was such an interesting read that I read this book in just one session in under 2 hours. Why do you think so? Because the plot of the book is so captivating, so interesting that it feels like I was transported to the America of mid-18th century. Now, I bought this book from Crossword store and this book cost me around 150 rupees. Now, if you can check this, this book is a hardcover book. It's very strong and very sturdy. And the font of the book is big enough to understand with picture on one side and text on the other. And if you are a beginner, I highly recommend that you read this book because it has an interesting story, it's easy to understand, and it is lovely to hold in your hands because it is so strong, so good. Now, as I told you, this book is set in mid-18th century, which is 1750s, where French and English are fighting each other to take control of North America. But that is not the story. The story is of the bravery of few white men and women, and especially the legacy of Native Americans called Mohicans, who have lost the claim over their lands, their forest, their resources to these white men. And it really does not matter who controls these lands because at the end of the day, it is the white people or the white French people or the white English people who are controlling their resources, which they don't want. Now you should read this book if you like fast-paced thrillers with something waiting to happen on each page. I mean, if you are a beginner, I highly recommend that you give this book a chance, because you will not get bored even for 1 second in this book. And if you can get this edition from Crossword or from any other bookstore that's near to your house or your locality, your place, you should buy the edition that I bought for 150 rupees. I'll leave the links of all the books in the description box. You should just look at all these books if you're beginners and give these books a try. This was my honest attempt to let you know of these wonderful books that probably you might have not read. And if you want to begin your reading journey, any of the book will do justice. So with that, thank you so much for watching this video till the end. And if you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you got some valuable information from this video, then you should definitely share this video to your friends, to your colleagues, to people who like book reading, and also subscribe to my channel. And thank you so much. You can leave comments below if you have any thoughts about this video. Let me know. I'll be happy to know about it. And with that thought, I will leave you. Thank you so much. You have a good day.